With key methods of communications for first responders in Utah put on full display. And tonight, we're hearing from leaders with Utah Highway Patrol, the Utah Sheriff's Association, the Utah Chiefs of Police Association, and the Utah State Fire Chiefs Association, all talking communications, which is arguably the most vital part of public safety. Here's Colonel Michael Rapich with Utah Highway Patrol.
Simultaneously, as they've been identifying some things that needed to be adjusted and things that needed to be worked on in the network. We've been identifying specifically things that needed to be done with our own equipment that we deployed. We've got about 670 officers, 650 at any given time statewide, and probably 1,400 radios throughout the state. When you're looking at the new network radios, as well as still keeping the VHF radios online, that's a lot of equipment to be deployed at one time. That's all involves rewiring an entire vehicle, putting new antennas on, getting the new radios put in place, getting end users with training on how to utilize the radios correctly and how to utilize the COT groups and how to utilize, move from one field to another. And then at the same time, like we said, identifying things that needed to be adjusted with that equipment that we're still doing. We're still identifying things with the equipment in the way we installed it, the way it was programmed, the way the top groups were set up that still need to be adjusted that we're seeing successes in. I think it probably, conservatively, it's easy to say as we've been working through this process throughout the entire state, working in every single county, we've identified the fact that the fixes and the adjustments we've been able to make in our own equipment has probably had at least, if not a larger impact on resolving some of the issues that we've been able to see. And so we've been actively working with that, working with our radio technicians, working with our PSAT groups, working with our area commanders to talk about we've been working with UCA on the other things. If we have identified a specific area that didn't have good coverage in it, or if we just identified a consistent problem that every radio was using that seemed to be a systemic problem, we were looking to UCA and making them aware of them. We're still doing that.
Utah County is one of the areas we focused on in previous reporting. Coverage concerns, radios not working, and lots of communication with these agencies experiencing the problems, and the Utah Communications Authority, who's responsible for the rollout, along with L3Harris Technologies. Here's Lone Peak Police Chief Brian Gwilliam with the Utah Chiefs of Police Association.
Since we've cut over in December, we've seen issues that were very prevalent in the beginning, but have continued to wane and kind of fix with the efforts of local chiefs and officers, but also working with UCA on identifying problems that are on the network. Here in Utah County, we receive an email. It started out weekly, but it's coming out bi-weekly now from UCA of things that they've identified in Utah County and how they're addressing them. Anywhere from equipment issues to, interference issues and things that they're working on. My conversations with Tina have been numerous in the fact that this is what we've identified as what we need to do, and this is what the fixes are going to be. And then follow-up has come from her to say, this is what we've done. These are the improvements that we've seen. These are some of the issues that we're still experiencing. And we continue in Utah County to log those issues and make sure that we're aware of them as chiefs, but also that those issues are, if they're UCA issues, those get pushed out to UCA of coverage areas that need to be fixed. Representing the chiefs across the state, I've heard the same kind of conversations from Box Elder County to Iron County to Washington County. And I think incrementally, as we changes with the software and in doing those types of changes, we've seen those improvements come from time to time. And I think as we continue to work on this, and this is not going to be an overnight fix. I wish there was a silver bullet that says, look, let's just change this cable or let's just update this software and everything would work. But this is going to be something incrementally that we're going to be working on, each day and each week as time goes on and we find these improvements. I think it's safe to say that we're not going to be satisfied until we have a product that's functioning to where we feel safe, that the officers can get out on their radios, that the dispatchers can get a hold of them when they need to. And it's our goal to make sure that we get that product into their hands, into all of our hands before we're satisfied with anything.
Parts of southern Utah were first to experience the new shift in communications. Kane County Sheriff Tracy Glover is the president of the Utah Sheriff's Association and was instrumental in facilitating this town hall conversation today.
Kane County was the first agency and the first area in the state to cut over to the new system. We're relatively new on the 800 on the legacy system. We were on VHF for many years in rural Utah, and so we're relatively new to the idea of the 800 megahertz of the legacy system. And so this cutover wasn't that much different from that experience that we'd had a few years ago. Having said that, our experience was relatively good. We had hiccups. There's no question. It took an extra day or two to get programming and reprogramming done on radios, which is a heavy lift because, you know, every radio has to get touched. We had some issues in our PSAP as far as volumes and you know, every radio talking to each other like it should. But by and large, I have to say that UCA was pretty responsive. They had to get some cables delivered quickly and things like that for some issues that they encountered during programming. But I mean, you know, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whatever it took to try to get those issues resolved. And I've been impressed with UCA's ability to, you know, kind of move on the fly and try to get things done. Having said that, we're not satisfied with the system as it currently stands, and it is an issue of priority. The reality is officer safety is our first priority. Community safety is a close second. And, you know, this group that's on this call, we're putting a lot of pressure on UCA. There's no doubt about that, to try to resolve the issues that they can resolve. And I agree with what Colonel Rapich said as far as it being a kind of a joint effort. You know, we've identified a number of things we can do on our end, but not everything can we do on our end. You know, a lot of the things are needing to be done with the radio system through UCA. UCA is our representative. Statutorily, they were designated to run our radio system in the state of Utah. And so that's who we interface with. They interface with L3 Harris to try to get, you know, work done. One thing I'll say is, you know, I've called in a number of concerns and complaints as we're the first to cut over. And I call those into the director of the UCA. And I have been happy with the fact that she gets L3 Harris anytime, day or night. Sunday, I remember an early morning Sunday call when my PSAP was having some struggles in the beginning. And she got them on the phone and got them to the table and essentially forced them to do something about it. And I've appreciated that responsiveness.
Some of the concerns early on were brought to my attention by firefighters, and that continues to be the case. Struggling with communicating on crashes, house fires, and tending to medical calls in large buildings, all issues related to this new system, and requires fixes both on the local level and on the larger scale. Here's Draper City Fire Chief Clint Smith, president of the Utah State Fire Chiefs Association.
There has been challenges. There's no doubt there's been challenges along the way. There's been some frustrations along the way, but much has already been shared. I will tell you that when those issues have been brought to UCA and have been identified, my experience is they've been very responsive in addressing those, sending people out, whether it's a programming issue. Obviously, I'm also the president of the Utah State Fire Chiefs Association, and so I've probably been in more of a position to hear a little bit more of some of those frustrations and concerns that have been expressed over time as we try and represent the collective of the fire service across the state and make sure that everyone has the tools they need to do their jobs. But I can tell you that in those instances where a programming issue has been identified or a significant coverage issue has been identified, as soon as that has been communicated to UCA, they've deployed people to, you know, immediately try and identify the issues, whether it was, you know, a programming error. I can tell you multiple departments that have, you know, had their people sent immediately down there from UCA to reprogram radios to deal with some of those oversights in the programming, or again, those coverage areas to identify, okay, is this the system issue or is this an end user issue? And like Colonel Rapich talked about, I think there was a lot that was put on the end user to make sure that we were prepared for the system cutover. And unfortunately, because we haven't had some of those things really put on us in the past, a lot of agencies weren't well prepared to deal with the end user responsibilities. You know, firmware has already been mentioned and those types of things. And we found radios that were, you know, 20 versions plus out of, you know, compliance with the recent firmwares. And I think a lot of those have been resolved as we've worked collaboratively together on, on addressing and making sure that we're both doing what we need to on each end. As mentioned, safety is first priority for all of us in our respective fields, and we're not going to let those things lapse in terms of making sure that the safety of our personnel are provided. However, that being said, we do recognize that sometimes it does take a little bit of time to identify and put the fix in place. And we're finding ways, if we need to work around those in the interim until we get to that permanent fix.
Coming up, our 2 News Town Hall continues how police and fire leaders plan to move forward with this new system among the challenges they face. During a career in law enforcement? Always hiring. Hey, they're recruiting. I'll hang here. I'll wait for you to go. Yeah, the big thing is that, they always have vacancies for the most part. I shouldn't say always, but welcome back to our 2 News Town Hall on critical radio communications with first responders here in Utah. Months have gone by with a new statewide system being installed and the various pieces of the project working to get in place. Now, the end user of this system are police officers, firefighters, EMS, and dispatchers, many of which have reached out about issues with this new system that has been in the works for years now. How urgent are these fixes to the system for first responders who put it all on the line?
Seem to be fixes that some need to be addressed
rather quickly, it sounds like, for the safety of the people using this equipment.
And I don't think anybody would disagree with you. We are talking about public safety. We're talking about officer safety, fire safety as they enter buildings, but we've made this decision to move into this. We needed to move into this. This legacy system that we were on is going to expire. This legacy system came into play before the 2002 Olympics. We've been operating on this system for 20 plus years. But to answer your question, we're talking about officer safety, but we're also talking about the safety of the public. And so that's what we need. This is what we're focused on. We're not satisfied with where we are now. We're never going to be satisfied until we get to the point where each officer has the ability to communicate the things that need to be communicated in an emergent situation, to be able to help themselves, but also help the public that they're interacting with.
Now, I spoke with Utah Communications Authority Executive Director Tina Matthew about this massive project, and I'm thankful that I did. Our conversation was long, in-depth, and involved a ton of moving parts. All the leadership we shared with you today in this town hall emphasized the importance of the role UCA has in statewide communications. There's literally no other way. So I have not spoken with L3Harris Technologies, who is the provider of the tech and the system. I've sent 5 emails over the past few weeks to multiple media contacts who have not responded or acknowledged the questions in any way, shape, or form. Some closing thoughts tonight from Sheriff Glover and Colonel Rapich.
I don't think there's a lack of interest in, spending the money or doing the work necessary to get the fixes in place. It's a matter of really understanding what the problems are, where they're from, and how to address them.
We're trying really hard not to feed chaos, not to just feed frustration, but identify, okay, what specifically are the problems? Let's get good information on them, and then let's start solving them. Either they're an equipment issue, they could be a user issue, which goes into training on the system and how to utilize the radio. That's been one we haven't talked about a lot, but we've identified that's a factor as well. Good training on the radios. It's a brand new piece of equipment that actually does things that our troopers, our deputies, our PSAT managers have never been able to do before, and they're figuring out how to be able to leverage that. We're finding out that they're trying to identify that they're using that equipment in ways that they used the previous equipment in, that it wasn't intended to do that. And we've got to reevaluate how we're doing that because it's creating conflicts in the system to be able to do that. All part of the learning process. And so when we're looking at it statewide, no one in this entire state worries more about the safety of state troopers than I do.
I know there's a lot of frustrations out there, and some of those frustrations are held by my deputies as well as others. But I'm confident that we can get to a finish line here that will be not perfect, but better. And so, I look forward to that day.
What I want to do, though, is give me information and make sure we're digging down into this to where we're actually solving the problem instead of just being frustrated and screaming about it.
From showing you the initial issues and concerns to sharing feedback from first responders to even other local problems in our communities with communications. I've been covering this issue nonstop every day for more than a week now. Go to KUTV.com or our YouTube page to get caught up on all of my reporting.
All right, we've got spring skiing here in the forecast for the day tomorrow, with temperatures back into the 40s. However, we've got to contend with the winds. We've got some 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts that will be ramping in, especially west of I-15 as we get into the day tomorrow and into Thursday. But if you are going to be doing any skiing here in the days ahead, we've got some heavy snow making a return as we make our way from Thursday into Friday, and this is going to really help our snowpack across the state. A statewide storm going to be making a return. This is a return to winter-like temperatures as well. For right now, though, it is spring-like. We're still at this hour into the 50s, so it's comfortable. It's mild, a little bit cloudy out there. 47 in Park City, 51 in Heber, 47 in Panguitch. Here's a look at those wind advisories out towards the west. That goes into effect for tomorrow and lasts through Thursday, and here's why. You can see those winds really kicking in tomorrow evening right after dinner time. 30 to 50 miles per hour, especially out from Tooele County down into the Delta, Cedar City area, and that continues in through Thursday morning. That'll be all ahead of our next storm that will bring us a mix of rain and some snow to the state. A few hot showers and some sprinkles in the St. George area right now. That will continue to move out of here. As we get into the day tomorrow, we're dealing with mainly sunny skies, but increasing clouds by Wednesday night to Thursday. And here we go again. Here's a storm rolling in. Thursday morning, we'll start off with some isolated snow showers, mainly for the mountains. That continues on through much of the day, but then we start to see some valley rain showers developing right around your evening commute. So Thursday evening, roads will be a little bit slick, and then we get a burst of snow as the cold front moves in after everyone's home, after the evening commute, even right after dinner time. 8 p.m., we could see maybe a 2 to 3 hour window of some heavy snow pushing through the area as temperatures plummet. And that could be enough to bring us some light snow accumulations for the valleys and some major snow accumulations for the mountains. But it's out of here for Friday morning's commute, so that's in the clear here. In terms of snowfall amounts, we could see 1 to 2 feet of snow for the mountains and maybe about a coating to 2 inches for the valleys. So watch out for that. Lows tonight, we're down into the 40s and 30s for much of the state. 60s for highs tomorrow, really nice. St. George, you've got temperatures here that are below normal for this time of year, into the 60s and 50s. Heading into the weekend, a few scattered showers as we get into Saturday, another storm into Tuesday. And then along the Wasatch Front, we've got breezy to windy conditions basically each and every day. Snow showers linger into Friday morning, another storm on Saturday, and then a potential third storm into early next week.
Couple of college kids in Colorado trying to create a new type of snowboard. Check it out. Unlike your traditional boards, these powder boards or powder surfers don't have bindings, meaning you don't have to buckle in.
All right, that could make things easier. Quinn and his buddy Chris now own Canva Labs, which makes the boards. They say the boards are a combination of longboarding mixed with snowboarding, mixed with skateboarding, mixed with surfing.
Yeah, I
All
get it.
those things I struggle with, but I like the idea.
Yeah, I kind of need bindings. I mean, I'm a skier, as are you. I kind of depend on the binding.
Right.
Adds a little stability. I'm sure my snowboard community out there feels the same way. I feel like I used to have one of those, but it was plastic when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was not very good at it either. See you tomorrow night.